we were on the silver medal podium. Oh, sorry, the bronze medal. So we'd moved up one place, but the Germans were still there. And I find that really annoying. But, you know, sort of the whole Aachen World Championship thing, that was a really formative, perhaps, experience for me, because I got on the team and I thought I'd made it. I thought I was top of the hoop because I was at a World Championships. And as a result, I went into the dressage arena and rode for more than I'd been told to, and didn't get as good a test as I should have. And then I go out cross country, and I'd been sent out first for Australia because that was my strength. And I made a couple of silly mistakes. I fell off coming out of the water, and then back in those days, you still got back on and kept going. And so I remember galloping to one fence, which caused a lot of trouble, and it was up onto a bank, cross the bank, off a jump, down the other side with a left-hand turn to a skinny. And I remember galloping to it, going to myself, hey, Jag, I hope you know what you're doing, because I can't even see it. And he jumped it clean for me. And then we jumped one more fence, and that's the last thing I remember until I woke up in an ambulance, because as we turned the corner, he slipped on a patch of mud, and which I should never have allowed him to do that, which just to me indicates I was concussed already. And, you know, I clearly remember I sort of said when we got the medal, I said, I'm not going out to get mine. I don't deserve one, because the rest of the team had done it. And Wayne Roycroft was brilliant. He looked at me and he said, oh, Sonja, I'll have to check the protocol on that to see if that's all right. And he came back and he goes, I'm sorry, Sonja, there's no option. You have to go out, which in hindsight was just Wayne being a clever team manager, which he was a lot, you know, so often he was. And so that night they had this big party for us, and everyone had to stand on a chair and do a little speech. And Megan and Andrew and Clayton, they all did these lovely speeches, and I just stood up there and I just went, guys, thank you for winning me a medal. I owe you one. And so for me, the best thing about, and Wayne Roycroft said to me later, he said, you're right, Sonja, you've had your one for free, now bloody well win us one. And so that was, to me, the best, well, the second best thing about my medal at Beijing was my score counted. So I paid my medal back. And that was really important to me. So that, yeah, no, look, it's just been an amazing journey. And to think that it's all done from here makes it extra special.
Yeah. So you've travelled the world with your horses. Do you have a favourite overseas competition?
Aachen, without a doubt, Aachen. Mm-hmm. I've been lucky enough to compete there twice, once at the World Championships, and then in 2016, I was on the Australian team that actually won the Nations Cup there. And that was only the second time, I believe, the Germans had ever been beaten at Aachen. And that was just amazing. I love the fact that the venue is really quite intimate. Yeah. But everywhere you want to go on the horses, you know, you've been there, so you know what it's like, all those paths.
And it's beautiful.
The hedges, and the way they stop everyone and let you go through, you feel like royalty. It's quite amazing. So Aachen is the event. People often say to me, oh, we're thinking of going to the Olympics. And I go, why? And they go, oh, we want to watch the horses. I go, don't go to the Olympics. Go to Aachen. You see the best of every discipline in the most amazing venue. If there was any event in Europe I could do again, put me down for Aachen.
Because you've got all the shops there too, whereas people don't realise when they go to the Olympics, there's no horse shops.
Nothing.
And you know, and you can walk everywhere to, you know, the cross country, the show jumping, dressage.
Yeah, it's really cool, Aachen, and the shopping is just amazing. And the other thing is the people at Aachen are also knowledgeable, and I've always found them very, very friendly, even if they didn't register I was a rider at the time. Whereas you go to an Olympics in particular, and a lot of the people in the stadium are just people that that's what they got tickets to go and watch something at their home Olympics. And so it's a really different feel, which doesn't mean I wouldn't like to go to another Olympics. Of course I would. But Aachen is just such an amazing event for anyone that wants to travel with horsey stuff.
Mm-hmm. And what about Burleigh? You competed there?
I did compete at Burleigh. Unfortunately, with Burleigh, I had caught a bug and could barely talk, which wasn't helpful. And also, when we fly the horses overseas, you get this little period where the horses are great, and then they get like a delayed jet lag. I thought Benny had just gone into that delayed jet lag phase. But again, it was an amazing experience. I loved it. And one of the things I just remember is, again, how lovely all the riders were just walking around. There are so many people there.
Have you been to badminton?
I have never competed at badminton. It's the only major 5-star venue in the world that I haven't competed at. Mm-hmm. And I have been there once when Andrew Hoy was riding, and I was over there faced with him. Thanks, dog. Dog, get out of it. Yes, splat. And so I've been there and had a look around and walked it and things, but I've never had the opportunity to compete at badminton.
Yeah, okay. So obviously with competing and with horses, there's always ups and downs. So what's some of the disappointments and hardest challenges you've had?
Probably one of the toughest ones was Benny, Parky Arab illicit liaison, Nikki Harwood's horse. He'd been named for the team to go to Normandy World Championships back in 2014. Mm-hmm. And we did our last gallop. We'd got to Bendigo to do our last gallop, and he pulled up lame. And, you know, you will find so many riders that can tell you exactly that story. And just, you know, there's just, the emotions are unbelievable. The first emotion is, oh my goodness, I've broken my horse. Because being effectively an amateur rider who doesn't have a full-time groom or anything, I basically look after my own horses. They're my mates. I use them to chase cows. My top horse at the moment was carrying a sheep home the other day for me.
I saw that on Facebook, yeah.
And so,
great.
You know, that's what my horses do. They're part of me. So the first emotion is, oh my goodness, have I damaged him badly enough he can't continue to enjoy life? And then once you're confident that that isn't there, then obviously you have the disappointment of not being able to go and represent your country again, because competing on teams is completely unlike going to Adelaide as an individual. It's nice, but it's just not the same feel as going away on a team with everyone. That is just incredible. And so then you have that disappointment. And then you feel mum and dad, or when dad was still with us, their disappointment, because they're disappointed for me and I know they'd been looking forward to the trip. And then it's all the other people around you, the owners, just the friends that are sort of, in a funny way, living a dream with you, and you just feel like you've let them all down. It's just horrible.
But it's hard. It's all that hard work and all the effort that you put in, and then something like that happens. It's just, it must be heartbreaking.
It is, but the thing to remember with it is something as I got older I've learned, is there's no point just focusing on World Championships, Olympics to the extent that you don't enjoy it along the way. And I think that'd be really sad if you weren't enjoying the work with the horses, enjoying the people around you. Because if you just set yourself up to go to an Olympics or a World Championships and something goes wrong and you don't get there, you can spend a lot of time thinking you're a failure, which isn't the way to go.
Yeah. And like with COVID at the moment, obviously you're in the high performance squad for Tokyo next year. How have you managed to sort of stay motivated, like with your training?
I'm just so grateful that I'm not anywhere else. It's been really lucky because of the changes in technology. And, you know, here we are you're over there, I'm here, we're having a conversation face to face. Well, I'm now using that technology to have lessons online with Bettina Hoy. And so I basically have 1 or 2 lessons a week with Bettina. It's back to 1 now because she's getting me a little more under control. And just having that sort of thing. And in a way, I think it's possibly been, as Mum said, I've stopped and I'm just really enjoying my horses because they're not I've got to have them right for this, I've got to have them competing there. I'm just really enjoying them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as I said, when the whole COVID thing happened and everyone's like, oh, there may not be an Olympics, my answer to that was, you know, an Olympics is very nice. What I want at the end of COVID is to still have the same group of family and friends. Yes. And so that the desire to do everything I can to make sure that that's a possibility is more than enough motivation to not worry about the fact I'm not in Tokyo at the moment.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. So you also do teaching and that, and you travel around Australia?
I do. It's a great way to travel. Traveling with horses per se is such a good way to travel because you get to places that aren't on the normal tourist itinerary, which is great. And so I stopped coaching completely when COVID was really bad until things loosened up in WA, which they have quite well. And so now I'm back coaching in Perth, and it was so much fun getting up there and seeing all my friends and kiboshing them, and they kibosh me quite a lot, I might mention. And just doing that's great and just helping everyone improve. And then I normally do a lot of coaching down in Tasmania. I've got a very strong and good crew of people down there because, you know, they think they're isolated, and then I point out to them how long it takes them to get to Melbourne versus how long it takes me to get to Melbourne.
Yeah.
So you know, they don't get a lot of sympathy, but they are in some ways isolated. And so I think the fact that what I've been able to achieve from here does definitely inspire people. And so I've coached in a lot of spots, but probably the most interesting coaching job I ever did was in 2002. I coached the Indian national equestrian team to a bronze medal at the Asian Games in Busan in Korea.
Oh,
and that was amazing, particularly when we got there before the Olympic Village had opened and we discovered that our accommodation was a brothel. So that was particularly entertaining.
So did you stay in India at all when you're training them?
Yeah, we did. I spent 3 or 4 weeks at an army cantonment called Merit, which is about 60 k's, I think it is, out of Delhi. And it was great fun. And it was really funny because I was quite blonde then. And so here's this blonde Western woman walking around this army cantonment, and it was really funny. I was in the senior officers' mess, and the guys running the seniors' office mess didn't approve of me. And one day the power went out, and I didn't speak a lot of any form of Indian language. But when the power went out and they weren't responding to my requests for candles, they discovered that working sheepdogs gives you a fine command of making yourself understood in any language quite loudly. I had no problems after that. It was great.
So you work on the family farm, and you find time juggling that with your horses and family and everything else that you do?
Well, there's only dogs. There's only Mum and myself, and as the dogs are pointing out, they're a member of the family too. Splashy. And so there's just Mum and myself on the farm now because my father passed away in 2017, which was really sad.
Yeah.
Hello, say hi. Spoiled dogs. And so there's just Mum and myself doing it. And Mum still rides, like she's, you know, in her late 70s now. Wow. And the other day she came and galloped one, and then she worked a young one for me and things like that. So she's pretty amazing, and we have a lot of fun together. We get contractors in to do things that, you know, if we need a hand, we'll get a contractor in, like all the crops putting contract. It's I actually say to people, if you want to be in horses, and you've got access to be a farmer, it's actually a really good way to do it, because if you get organised, you can set the place up to look after itself for a little bit of time while you disappear and do things. And you do need good neighbours. I have very good neighbours. So that helps. And so I actually think it's a lovely way of doing it, because I never wanted to be a professional horse rider and full-time doing horses. I wanted to never feel like the horses were a job and a chore. I wanted them to be my pleasure. And because of the farm, which I must say is mostly normally a pleasure as well, that is what my horses are.
Yeah, oh no, fantastic. So have you got any competitions coming up? Or, because I know in Victoria, a lot of them are cancelled.
I'm very excited. We pull out tomorrow to go to our first competition in ages. So I was packing and I said to a friend of mine, I said, oh, you know, I feel like the last competition I did was actually Taupo in New Zealand, but it wasn't. I did do one in October last year, and then I decided against going to Adelaide because I just didn't really feel it was the best prep for the horse towards Tokyo. Well, of course, in hindsight, you go, God, I wish I'd gone and done Adelaide because it would have been something to do. And then, there haven't been any competitions this year in WA. There were supposed to be some, then they got cancelled at the last moment. So I'm not taking Valentino, my good horse, because it's only going to 2-star. But I have a really nice young horse called Showtime, and it will be my first 1-star competition on him, which I have to say I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I know, that's great. Yeah, no, because there's not much happening here at the moment.
No, it is very ordinary over there. You know, like my plan for next year is I'd like to come and do Melbourne 3-day next year, and it's just like, gosh, I really hope Melbourne is able to happen next year. So you just don't know. But all you can do, as I say to people, is set a plan, and if you have a plan, you can change it. If you have no plan, you're going nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So have you, who's been your mentor or the person that's helped you most in your eventing career?
My mother.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, I always say that the thing that taught me the most about cross country was a mob of cows. After that, I would give credit to Andrew Hoy. You know, Jennifer Lucas, the lady with the Pony Club, she was certainly a very big inspiration. And then I've been lucky enough to work with some really amazing people like Zoe Harrison helped me right at the beginning, and Heather Larwood, and then we moved on, and, you know, sort of Wayne Roycroft and Harry Bolt were two of the really big influences on my career. So I was lucky with that. And then I've got Bettina, and when I started working with Bettina, she had just moved to England and her English wasn't very good and she couldn't cook. So we actually swapped cooking lessons for dressage lessons. So that goes
Great idea.
That goes back to about 1997, 98. So, you know, so that was really good fun, which is why we're such good friends now. So even though I do live in this really isolated little patch, somehow I've managed to make opportunities and run with things so that I have, you look at some of the people I've worked with, and I have worked with some absolutely amazing people, and I've been very lucky and really appreciate those opportunities.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd love to thank Sonja. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure
no problem.
Viewers have learned a lot about your background, and I guess they aspire to your amazing ability and everything like that.
Yeah.
You've lived so many riders' dreams. I'm sure those listening tonight really appreciative. So thank you very much.
No problems.
Yeah, next Thursday at 7:30, we've got Linda Warren-Davies. Linda is a dressage, international FEI dressage judge and young horse judge from Christchurch, New Zealand. We'll be talking to her at 7:30. We talked to Sonja tonight at 6:30 just because it was light and made sure that we had appropriate Wi-Fi. I look forward to speaking to you next week. Good night. Have a great week and see you next week at 7:30.